Most women have no idea, but the things that turn men on the most are not your looks, not your outfit, and not your makeup. It's the tiny, natural things you do without even thinking. And when he sees them, he feels that spark instantly. In today's video, I'm breaking down 5 small, innocent things women do casually that silently drive men crazy. These are the behaviors he'll never admit out loud, but they hit him deeper than you think. If you've ever wondered why a man suddenly gets quiet, starts staring, or becomes extra attentive around you, these tiny moments are the reason. Let's begin. Men rarely admit what actually turns them on because for them attraction is often silent, private, and deeply internal. One of the most powerful triggers for men is when a woman does something completely natural, completely casual, and completely unplanned, especially something as simple as adjusting her hair. Women think it's nothing. Men feel it like a shock. When you tuck your hair behind your ear, run your fingers through it, flip it to one side, or just lightly fix it while talking, something inside him switches on instantly. What you see as a habit, he sees as softness, feminine energy, and effortless beauty all wrapped into one tiny moment. What makes this so powerful is the vulnerability behind it. When you expose your neck for even a second while fixing your hair, he notices. That area is delicate, intimate, and extremely attractive to men. He might be pretending to look at his phone or pretending to stay calm, but internally his attention locks onto you. Men are highly visual creatures, and small movements speak louder to them than big gestures. That tiny hair adjustment feels like a personal invitation into your feminine world, even though you never intended it that way. Another reason this affects men so much is because it's genuine. There's nothing forced, nothing planned, nothing dramatic. It's completely natural, and men are extremely attracted to authenticity. When you do something unconsciously, it feels real to him. It's not flirtation. It's not strategy. It's just you being you. And that natural feminine comfort is what pulls him in. It makes him imagine being close to you, touching your hair, or feeling your warmth. His mind starts wandering without his permission. He's still listening to you talk, but his focus is somewhere between your words and the way your fingers moved just a second ago. The softness of the gesture also activates a protective instinct in men. They love seeing a woman express comfort in small ways. It makes them feel strong, masculine, and drawn toward you. When you casually fix your hair while talking to him, it signals that you are relaxed, present, and not guarded. Whether you realize it or not, that ease is magnetic. Men fall for softness, for subtlety, for those quiet feminine movements that make them feel something emotional before they feel something physical. And it's not just the movement itself, it's the energy it gives off. When you instinctively adjust your hair, you send out a momentary signal of confidence and femininity at the same time. Most women don't know this, but confidence mixed with softness is one of the strongest combinations in male psychology. It tells him you're comfortable in your own skin, and that makes him look at you differently. It makes him see you as someone he wants to get closer to, someone he wants to understand, someone he wants to impress. What's even more interesting is that men often notice this more when you're not trying to impress them. If you're laughing, talking, or explaining something and your hair slips forward and you casually fix it, that's when it hits him the hardest. It's innocent, it's unfiltered, it's real. Men crave these unscripted feminine moments far more than the obvious flirting. He might forget what you said 5 minutes later, but he won't forget the moment you smiled and brushed your hair back. That image will replay in his mind long after the conversation ends. Sometimes this small gesture reveals a glimpse of your personality. The way you fix your hair, gently, confidently, nervously, playfully, shows him something about you without words. If you're shy and you tuck it behind your ear softly, he notices your sweetness. If you're bold and you flip it while laughing, he notices your confidence. If you're focused and you push it back without thinking, he notices your natural rhythm. Every tiny motion carries energy, and he absorbs that energy instantly. It also creates micro moments of tension without you realizing it. When you touch your hair, men can't help but imagine what it would feel like to touch it themselves. Even if they try to stay composed, their mind fills in the rest. This is why sometimes men suddenly become quieter or start staring more intensely right after you adjust your hair. They're lost in that small moment. Their imagination takes over, and that imagination is a major part of silent male attraction. What makes this point so powerful is that you don't need to change anything about yourself. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to perform. You simply need to exist naturally in your feminine energy. The movements you make without thinking are the ones he remembers the most. Attraction for men is often rooted in these soft, subconscious triggers, moments that feel organic and unfiltered. Every time you casually fix your hair, you give him a tiny glimpse of intimacy, softness, and natural beauty. And that is why this simple, everyday act, something you've done your whole life without awareness, can silently turn a man on more than anything dramatic or intentional ever could. Another small thing women do casually that silently turns men on is the way you play with your lips without realizing it. This could be biting your lip when you're thinking, touching your lower lip lightly while listening, applying lip balm, or even pressing your lips together when you're nervous or focused. To you, it's just a habit, something you've been doing since childhood. But to a man watching you, it's one of the strongest subconscious attraction triggers. Men are insanely responsive to mouth and lip movements, even if they pretend not to be looking. A woman's lips represent softness, warmth, affection, sensuality, all in one place. When you touch them, adjust them, or draw attention to them, even for a split second, his mind activates instantly. He starts imagining how soft they are. He wonders how they taste. He imagines kissing you without even planning to. These thoughts hit him fast, quietly, and powerfully. What you see as an innocent motion, he sees as intimacy. Even if you aren't trying to flirt, even if you're just focused or nervous, the way your lips move sends signals straight into his attraction center. This happens especially when you do it unconsciously. Think of when you're concentrating and you gently bite your lip, or when you're thinking and you graze your fingertip across your mouth, or when you're listening to him and you press your lips together slightly. These movements are small but potent. For men, lips are incredibly symbolic. They represent connection and closeness. A man can look at a woman's lips and feel drawn into a whole fantasy without her saying a single word. So when you casually bring attention to your lips, even without intention, it creates a moment that feels private, a moment that feels like a doorway into something deeper. It doesn't matter whether you're shy or confident, loud or quiet. The lips speak a silent language that men hear loudly. Another reason this affects men so deeply is because it happens during ordinary moments. When you're applying lip balm while talking, he sees a softness and care that feels intimate. The way you glide it across your lips, the way they shine afterward, the way your mouth moves, it all plays into his imagination. He sees something nurturing, something feminine, something sensory. Men are highly visual, but they're also incredibly responsive to tiny sensual details. There's also a psychological layer to this. When you touch your lips, it shows he's making you think. It makes him feel like he's having an effect on you, even if that's not true. It gives him a sense of silent connection. Men love feeling like they are influencing your thoughts or emotions, even in small ways. So if you're biting your lip because you're analyzing something he said, or you're trying to decide what to reply, he takes it personally. He interprets it as engagement, as closeness, as interest, even if you don't mean it that way. Men also associate lip movements with emotion. When you press your lips together, he can tell you're holding back a smile. When you bite your lip, it looks like curiosity or attraction. When you soften your lips, it looks like comfort and warmth. These little emotional signals hit him deeper than words. Men fall for moments where a woman reveals something unintentionally, something soft, something human, something natural. And it gets even stronger when eye contact is involved. If you're looking at him and without thinking, you lick your lips lightly or press them together, it sends a wave of attraction through him. Even if you're doing it out of habit, he interprets it as intimacy. His attention shifts entirely to you. Even if you're in a crowded room, it's a moment where the world feels smaller just for a second. What makes this even more interesting is that men have no idea why this affects them so much. They can't explain it. They rarely admit it. But the reaction is immediate. Their breath changes for a moment. Their focus sharpens. Their imagination wakes up. They start picturing things without trying. It's a natural biological response. And because you're not trying to be seductive, it feels even more powerful to him. He sees the real you, raw, natural, unfiltered. There's no performance, no intention. Just the tiny unconscious motion of your lips. And for a man, that's 10 times more attractive than anything exaggerated or forced. Sometimes this small gesture can even shift a man's entire view of you. Maybe he saw you as just a friend or someone normal, or someone casual. But when you absent-mindedly touch your lips or bite them while talking or reading something, it creates an unexpected spark. It's a moment that stays with him. He may replay that 1 second in his mind long after the conversation ends, wondering why it affected him so much, wondering why that tiny, innocent action suddenly made him attracted to you. This is the magic of subtle feminine behavior. You don't need to try. You don't need to perform. Your natural habits carry energy, an energy that men feel deeply, even if you never notice it. The small things you do without awareness are often the exact things that make a man fall harder, stare longer, or think about you later. And that is why something as simple as touching, biting, or adjusting your lips, something you do casually, naturally, innocently, can silently turn a man on far more than anything deliberate. Another subtle thing women do casually, something they don't even notice, that silently turns men on, is the way your voice changes during certain moments. Not the way you talk intentionally or the way you try to sound cute. Men are not moved by anything forced. What affects them deeply is when your voice naturally softens, lowers, or gets slightly breathy when you're thinking, excited, nervous, or comfortable. That small unconscious shift in tone hits a man in a place he can't explain. Men listen to your tone more than your words. The sound of a woman's voice affects their emotions, attention, and attraction instantly. When you speak in your natural rhythm, especially when you're being real, being yourself, and not performing, your voice creates an emotional pull. It's the tiny changes that get him, the way your voice drops a little when you're serious, the way it gets lighter when you laugh, the way it softens when you're comfortable around him, or the way it becomes slightly shy when you're complimented. These subtle shifts tell him more about you than anything you say directly. A soft or slightly lowered voice tells a man you feel safe and relaxed. That signal hits him on a subconscious level. It activates his instinct to connect, to protect, to listen harder. Men crave softness, not in a weak way, but in the way softness feels intimate and special. When your voice gently flows during conversations, even if you're just explaining something simple, he feels connected to you. He becomes more invested in what you're saying. He leans in without noticing it. You create a quiet, private moment, even if there are other people around. One of the strongest triggers for men is a woman's voice when she's genuinely excited, not screaming or over the top, but that natural brightness in your tone when you talk about something you love. It could be your favorite food, a place you want to visit, a memory from your childhood, anything. That real joy in your voice makes him feel warmth, softness, and an emotional spark. He sees you come alive. And when a woman lights up in a natural way, it's incredibly attractive to men. Another powerful moment is when your voice slows down just a little. Not intentionally seductive, just thoughtful, focused, or deep in conversation. When you speak with that natural calm, the softness in your tone becomes magnetic. Men feel hypnotized by it. They listen more closely, they feel more present, and they feel more drawn to your energy. You don't need to whisper. You don't need to try to sound sensual. Your natural slowed down tone carries more intimacy than any intentional flirtation. Sometimes your voice cracks slightly when you're nervous or shy, and men notice that too. That tiny vulnerability makes you feel real, human, and emotionally open. Men don't get to see vulnerability often, so when it appears naturally in your tone, it hits deep. It makes him want to comfort you, reassure you, and be closer to you. Even if he doesn't act on it, the feeling is there. Laughing also affects men far more than women realize. Not loud laughter, but your small, real, unfiltered laugh. The one that slips out when you're genuinely amused or trying not to smile. The little giggle you hide. The light laugh you make when he says something unexpected. That sound goes straight to a man's heart and makes him feel connected to you instantly. Real laughter, not performed laughter, is one of the most attractive sounds to a man because it makes him feel like he caused that happiness in you. There's another moment that affects men silently. The pause before you speak. That tiny breath you take, the quick mental reset, the soft exhale. Men pick up on that. It makes them anticipate your words. It pulls them in. It creates tension, even though it's completely unconscious on your part. It creates a powerful emotional effect. Your voice also reveals your comfort level around him. When you talk freely with warmth and ease, it signals trust. When your tone becomes softer when you talk to him compared to others, he notices that too. even if he pretends he doesn't. Men love feeling like they bring out a different side of you. If your voice naturally shifts when you talk to him, he feels chosen, special, connected. That silent psychological reward deepens his attraction without him even realizing why. What's fascinating is that men often replay your voice in their mind later. The way you laughed, the way you said their name, the way you explained something softly. These small moments stick with them. Your voice becomes something they think about, something they remember, something they want to hear again. They relate voice to emotion, to connection, to intimacy. The most attractive voice to a man is not the deepest, not the softest, not the sexiest. It's your real, natural voice when you feel comfortable. Your authentic tone, the one that comes out when you're relaxed, is far more attractive than any dramatic or exaggerated sound. Men are drawn to natural femininity, and your natural voice is one of the purest forms of that energy. This is why men fall quietly in love with a woman's voice long before they admit they're attracted. They listen for the way she says things. They notice her subtle tonal changes. They pick up on her softness, her excitement, her nervousness, her joy. And all of these tiny shifts create an emotional foundation that turns into silent attraction. So when you speak from a place of comfort, warmth, or excitement, when your tone changes naturally because you're being present and real, you unknowingly create one of the strongest attraction triggers in male psychology. Your voice becomes something he feels, not just hears. And that silent emotional pull is what turns him on far more than anything deliberate or dramatic. Another small thing women do casually that silently turns men on is the way you lean in during a conversation, especially when you're genuinely curious, listening deeply, or trying to understand something. You don't do it intentionally. You don't do it to flirt. You simply shift your body closer because you're paying attention. But to a man, that tiny movement feels incredibly intimate. It makes him feel like he suddenly has access to you that others don't. When a woman leans in naturally, even slightly, it sends a powerful subconscious message. I'm focused on you. Men rarely get that kind of closeness or attention. So when it happens in such a simple, natural way, it hits hard. It makes him feel chosen. It makes him feel interesting. It makes him feel like he matters in that moment. And men get turned on not just by physical appearance, but by emotional cues. Connection, closeness, warmth. Leaning in creates all three instantly. The beauty of this gesture is that it's not big or dramatic. You don't have to sit right next to him. Even a small shift, a slight forward lean, a little tilt of your head, your body turning toward him, creates a moment of emotional intimacy. When you do this casually, without thinking about it, he sees authenticity, and authenticity is one of the strongest attraction triggers. Your body language becomes soft, open, and inviting without you even knowing. Men respond to openness deeply. When you lean in, your shoulders relax, your face gets closer, your scent becomes noticeable, your eyes become more engaging. These tiny details create an almost electric feeling for him. He suddenly becomes much more aware of you, your presence, your warmth, your femininity. His senses wake up. There's something else happening too. Proximity changes everything. When you move closer to a man, even by a few inches, he feels the shift physically. Your presence becomes impossible to ignore. He becomes aware of the space between you, or the lack of space. That closeness activates desire without needing any touch. It creates invisible physical tension, the kind that builds attraction slowly and intensely. And because you don't do it on purpose, it feels safe, natural, and sincere. He trusts that moment. It doesn't feel like a game or a seduction tactic. It feels like a real connection. Men crave that. They crave the feeling that a woman is comfortable enough to come slightly closer to them when she speaks. When a woman leans in while laughing or listening, it also gives men a quiet sense of intimacy. It feels like you're sharing something private, even if the topic is something simple. The closeness creates a bubble around you too. For that second, it feels like the rest of the world disappears. Men fall for women in these micro moments, not the big scenes, not the dramatic actions, but the accidental closeness that feels unplanned and personal. What makes this even more powerful is how your eyes look when you lean in. Eye contact becomes stronger, more focused. Men get overwhelmed by eye contact mixed with closeness. It hits them emotionally and physically at the same time. When your face is a little closer, your eyes look more expressive. And men notice every detail, the way they soften, the way they brighten, the way your lashes move when you blink. Your voice also changes when you lean in even slightly. It naturally becomes softer, calmer, and more controlled. That subtle shift creates a sense of intimacy that men feel instantly. A quieter voice makes him lean in too, without even noticing. When two people lean in at the same time, the tension becomes undeniable. That's where silent attraction grows strongest in the unspoken closeness. Leaning in also signals trust. Men deeply respond to women who show comfort around them. If your body moves closer instead of pulling away, he interprets that as acceptance, as warmth, as openness. Even if you're not thinking that at all, he feels it. It makes him feel confident. It makes him feel masculine. And feeling masculine around a woman is one of the foundations of male attraction. Another layer to this is contrast. Women tend to lean away when they're uncomfortable, bored, or uninterested. So when you do the opposite, when you lean in, he feels a subtle boost of pride. He feels like he's doing something right. He feels like he's making you feel comfortable. That emotional reward deepens his attraction without him even realizing it. Men also replay these moments in their minds. They remember how it felt when you leaned closer, how close your face was, how your hair moved, how your perfume hit them. Men memorize these tiny sensory details. They think about them later. They wonder if you meant something by it, even if you didn't. They hold on to that moment because it felt powerful. And again, the best part is you don't need to try. You don't need to think about it or exaggerate it. Just being yourself, being engaged, being present. Naturally leaning in when you're talking creates one of the strongest attraction triggers without you ever noticing. This is why a man can be completely fine 1 minute and suddenly captivated the next. It might have been the moment you leaned closer to laugh, or the moment you turned your body toward him while listening, or the moment your face came just a little nearer than before. These tiny, innocent shifts speak to him louder than words. Men don't fall in love with effort. They fall in love with moments. And your natural closeness, shown through simple, unconscious leaning in, is one of those moments that silently turns him on and draws him deeper into you. Another small, innocent thing women do casually that silently turns men on is the way you smile at the little things, especially when the smile isn't planned or posed. Men are obsessed with natural, unfiltered smiles, not the picture-perfect smile you give for photos or the polite smile you use in public. What really affects a man, what hits him in the chest and stays with him, is the quiet, genuine, almost childlike smile you give when something truly warms you from the inside. It could be when you remember something funny, when you're shy and you smile down for a second, when you try to hide your smile but it still slips out, when someone compliments you and you give that soft, surprise smile, or when you're talking about something you love and your face lights up without you realizing it. These tiny, authentic smiles are incredibly powerful because they show real joy, and real joy is rare. Men don't see women's natural expressions very often. Most people walk around guarded, serious, or distracted. So when a man catches you smiling naturally, it becomes a moment that stands out. Your whole energy changes in that second. Your eyes soften, your cheeks lift, your voice warms, your entire presence becomes more feminine, more approachable, more emotionally open. That combination creates a magnetic pull deep inside him. The key is that these smiles are never forced. They're not intentional. You're not doing it for him or anyone else. It just happens. And because it's unplanned, it feels honest. Men are far more attracted to honesty in emotion than any polished display. When you smile naturally, he gets a glimpse of who you really are, your softness, your warmth, your kindness. And that glimpse is incredibly intimate. A woman's genuine smile makes a man feel good about himself too. If he's the reason you smiled, even if it was a small joke, a random comment, or an unexpected moment, he feels a rush of pride and connection. Men rarely get to feel that they made someone genuinely happy. So when they see that kind of smile, it hits them deeply. It boosts their confidence. It makes them want to get closer to you. It makes them want to make you smile again. Your natural smile also activates a protective instinct. There's something pure and comforting about it. It makes you look softer, sweeter, more relaxed, and that softness is deeply attractive. Men subconsciously crave emotional warmth, even if they never say it out loud. Your genuine smile gives them that warmth in a single moment. There's also a psychological trigger at play. When you smile naturally around someone, your body language opens up, your shoulders relax, your eyes brighten, you lean in slightly. All of these signals tell him you're comfortable, and comfort is one of the biggest attraction amplifiers. A woman who smiles easily feels emotionally safe, and men are drawn to that more than anything physical. It's also about the timing. Sometimes your smile appears at the exact moment he's looking at you. Maybe you weren't even smiling at him. Maybe you were thinking of something or reacting to something small, but from his perspective, it feels personal. It feels like a shared moment, even if it wasn't intentionally shared. Men hold on to those moments. They replay them later. They wonder what made you smile. They wonder if it had something to do with them. Your natural smile can also disarm a man completely. Men often walk around tense or guarded, but when a woman gives a soft, genuine smile, it melts that tension. It opens him up emotionally. It lowers his defenses. It makes him see you as someone who brings ease into his world. Men fall for women who make them feel calm, comforted, or understood, and a genuine smile does all three at once. Another powerful element is eye connection. When you smile and your eyes light up, men feel it on a deeper level. Eye smiles are incredibly intimate. They reveal emotion, softness, and sincerity. A woman's eyes, when she truly smiles, are one of the most attractive things a man can witness because it feels like being let into a private part of her personality. Even the smallest smiles, a quick smirk, a tiny grin, a shy half smile, can completely change the way a man sees you. These little moments make you feel more alive, more expressive, more emotionally rich. They show a side of you that's real and unscripted, and men fall for that kind of authenticity every time. The best part is you don't need to try at all. You don't have to charm him, impress him, or act a certain way. Your natural smile is enough to create one of the strongest attraction triggers. Men are wired to respond to happiness, to warmth, to softness, and your genuine smiles deliver exactly that in the most irresistible way. This is why a man can be completely composed one moment and completely captivated the next. Maybe you laughed softly. Maybe you smiled down shyly. Maybe you tried to hide a smile but couldn't. Maybe you lit up while talking about something you love. These tiny expressions create emotional electricity, the kind men think about long after the moment has passed. Your smile doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. And when it's real, it becomes one of the strongest silent turn-ons for men, a reminder that attraction often grows from the smallest, most innocent, most natural parts of you. Attraction isn't always about big gestures or planned moments. Most of the time, it's these tiny, natural things women do without thinking that leave the deepest impact. When a man is into you, he notices every detail, every movement, every shift in your energy. And it's those small, effortless actions that silently pull him closer. Keep being your natural, authentic self, because that's what turns him on the most.